All right, what's up guys, JC Sense here, and I'm holding the mic because I wasn't intending to do a more discussional type video today, but that's what we're gonna do. I've got Jorge and Seth here, which are actually experts in the networking section and specifically with Ubiquiti as well, understanding the Ubiquiti system. When it comes to networking, my home's network, it's embarrassingly bad. And what I mean by embarrassingly bad is the amount of devices that I have connected to it, the capability of the wireless system, and just the flexibility I have within it are very limited. So today we're gonna talk about networking. There's some stuff I need to get while I'm here, so I figured this is very relevant to you guys too, especially as technology is moving forward now with tri-band and other such technologies that have become much more available and approachable. We're gonna talk about it today, and then ultimately we'll see what I end up getting for home. Introducing the XTM3 from Fantex, micro ATX chassis built for power and performance. Compact yet packed with potential, the XTM3 features support for rear connect motherboards, dedicated radiator space at the top, and triple fan locations at the bottom to help keep your GPU cool. With its innovative layout and sleek, clean design, the XTM3 is ready to take on almost any gaming PC configuration and cooling challenge. Check out the link in the description for more details. So a little background on what I have in my system. We talked about it a little bit already. My home was built in 2019. It was one of those Amazon smart homes. And apparently the whole idea was, you don't need wired. Who needs wired internet? And of course, with me being a PC enthusiast, wired is all about latency, right? And reducing that. So the home came with a Ruckus system, which is Amazon's product, right? It's an Amazon product. And it was fine at the time when I didn't have 186 devices, I believe it is, plugged into it. But now on a enterprise level, that's nothing, right? That's nothing at all. But now that 6 years later, all the homes have been built and everyone's running identical systems, I went from seeing 4 or 5 networks in the area, and one of them being my printer, right? To now scrolling through all the wireless connections that are in my area. And what I've noticed is I used to be able to get I had a 1 gigabit fiber connection at the time. It's now a 5 gigabit fiber connection because it upgraded, and for the same cost I got 5 gig, why not? I'm still running a 1 gig switch. We'll talk about that in a minute. I've noticed the wireless speed, the dropouts, the devices like my smart TVs and stuff disconnecting and not reconnecting, memory leaks, just so many things that started cropping up in my wireless. It is becoming a pain point, which is why I'm here now to get new stuff. So why don't you tell me real quick, just on a quick high level, what tri-band is? I know what it is, but I think a lot of the audience may not understand what tri-band is and what it means to wireless connections moving forward. Okay, so we know about Wi-Fi 7 and all of that now being the new protocol, but explain what tri-band is.
Tri-band is basically where instead of having a single point of connection, you have like a wider range of connections.
Yeah, now, and 2.4 really only exists for like legacy support.
Yeah, for legacy. Now comes the introduction of the 6 gigahertz band.
Would you agree that in most people's homes, the things that are taking up their wireless the most is going to be their handheld devices, phones, tablets, maybe computers, laptops?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be those devices. The biggest...
Now, not to cut you off, I'm sorry. The audience hates when I do that, but if I don't say my thought, ADD will lose it. So when it comes to devices that connect, you might be thinking, well, if there's not a lot of devices that use 6 gigahertz, what's the point? Well, the point is the devices that can and do alleviate that strain from the 5 gigahertz band for all those devices that don't use 6 gigahertz, like smart TVs and smart light bulbs and whatever other types of connections that don't use it yet. You're splitting that bandwidth in the wireless system and the router, right?
Yeah, especially when it comes to people watching content at the same time, it's going to take that strain.
Yeah.
Well, if you're just on a different band, you're not going to have that issue anymore.
To give you guys an example, when it comes to latency, I really started investigating whether I wanted to do this at home when we built the new studio and we went to Wi-Fi 7 in the studio. And when we started noticing on our PCs that have Wi-Fi 7 NIC in them, that we were getting the full 980 megabit of our 1 gigabit connection, and we were seeing single digit latency. We were used to seeing 5 gigahertz band that was running, 30, maybe 40 millisecond latency on wireless. Like if you could get anywhere near 15 or 20 on wireless, that was great. But seeing single digit latency in wireless is like, okay, maybe this is actually a viable solution for people that don't have a hardwired system. Now that's not my case at home. I obviously have a wired gaming PC, but I tested it at home. I've seen latency spikes as high as 100 milliseconds. That just tells me the access points are getting overworked.
Your case is an extreme example. What helps a lot when it comes to wireless connections is having a AP that can handle all of those different connections. But not just the AP, you also have to consider your switch and then your main router.
As somebody who I've lived at home with my parents, I've been to college dorms, I've done rent-a-room. The most stable connections I've seen are going to be with like more of the enterprise level stuff like Ubiquiti, but you don't need enterprise level with Ubiquiti because it's consumer level. Anyone can walk in and buy Ubiquiti stuff. Anyone can walk in and wire it up. Anyone can take advantage of it, which is really nice. Yeah. So like it's affordable and it doesn't require much knowledge to set up. Like you do need to
even
know,
with the switch, like the managed switch.
If you want to get into the managed switch, that's the nice thing is that Ubiquiti scales really well. So if you want to do like plug and play, simple stuff, you can do that. But if you want to get into the nitty gritty and manage it, it has all those features available. And like the compatibility with the app works anywhere, which is.
I ask about that because there's a lot of customization, not customization, but there's a lot of knobs and dials you can mess around with in your switch to, for instance, prioritize a certain device over another when it comes to, packet priority and such for gaming and stuff like that. Now, just full transparency, Micro Center, is partnered with Ubiquiti. They have a whole Ubiquiti thing right here. I'm not partial to Ubiquiti personally. I've never used an Ubiquiti product, but I will say this: I know actually, if you guys have watched our live stream, Mr. Caballero, remember we do gaming with him. He installed Ubiquiti systems every single day, and large deployment, small deployment, medium deployment, and just knowing how it's a enterprise solution that has scaled down to commercial or to consumer scale rather than the other way around makes it feel like we're just getting a solid product. So this is not sponsored by Ubiquiti or anything like that. I just want to point that out. That this is just kind of what's turned into like the most consumer recognized wireless product. So let's talk about this real quick. Let's go over here to the wireless access points. So one thing I've noticed is the price. Let me just say why. This seems so cheap to me. Each Ruckus access point that's in my home that was installed in 2019 was $500 a piece. And clearly they're not up to the task today. So when you were talking about like, this is $100, right? This is just the U7 Lite, right? And then we have the U7 Pro, and then it goes up for there. Like this already is so much cheaper than what's in my home now, and it's so much more than I need. Mm-hmm. But that's the exciting part is I guess sometimes if you wait long enough to make an upgrade, the upgrade is really noticeable, right?
Yeah.
So this is a tri-band here. This is not.
Yes.
So this is only 2.4 and 5 gigahertz.
Yes.
On Wi-Fi 7 protocol. This is the BE9300 Wi-Fi 7 tri-band, so it has that 6 gigahertz range.
Yeah, it has that 6 gigahertz. As I said, it helps a lot with, especially for your example, having a lot of different connections going around. This, with that new 6 gigahertz band, you're going to really take advantage of the speeds that you are paying for.
Now, we talked about a little bit whether or not I need to change my managed switch. Now, the switch came with the Ruckus system, but it's not a proprietary Ruckus deal. When I connect to the access points, I'm and changing knobs, which is very limited, by the way. It uses the Unleashed app. If I logged into it on the wireless on my laptop, I could see some things, but it's very limited on what we can do. Like one of the first things I want to do is I want to just do an analysis of the wireless that's in range of my home and try and find a clear channel to mess around on, right? The switch, because it's what's managing my network, I wanted to make sure that I don't have to necessarily get a new switch, but I'm thinking it might make sense because one, the switch is the brain of the whole network, and two, they've gotten a lot cheaper. That's the honest point.
Yeah. So what's cool about Ubiquiti switches is that there's pretty much a switch for every different price point, and as well every different use case.
Okay, so I need 2 access points. I have an upstairs and a downstairs. They are ceiling mounted. They must be PPOE. I kind of like the price to performance of what I'm seeing here on the U7. That's the tri-band. We get the 6 gigahertz. Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, I've seen it go. I never saw anything faster on my wireless, even with my laptops, than about 400 megabit on the wireless, which wasn't bad. I'm like, okay, that's fine. But I've noticed now, not only has the latency gone up, the speeds on my iPhone 17 are like 100 on the wireless, and I'm as far away from, I'm maybe 10 feet from the access point, clear view, no walls. I'm like, okay, that's a problem. What I've seen is the latency go up significantly into the, like I said, 20, 30 millisecond range. But more importantly, I'm seeing dropout. I'm seeing dropout on like our smart TVs, which are not that are within a few years old, and what that tells me is we're probably dealing with memory leaks on the access point. We're probably dealing with maybe a channel switch or something, and it's not renegotiating and reconnecting the devices. And I'm tired of getting text messages and phone calls from my kids and my wife saying the TV says no internet, but the phone is connected. I don't know why the TV's not working, and the only fix after the access point resets itself is to fully unplug and replug in the device. And that's getting really annoying. So I'm kind of liking what we see here with that, because how many devices can the U7 support?
So the U7 can support up to, if I remember right, 500
I believe it's,
clients.
500 for the U7 Pro, and then about 250 for the Lite, which is still more than like what most people even need for their house.
Yeah.
You said you have around 200 devices.
It's like in the 180s.
Okay.
Last time I looked on the when I went into the Unleash, to manage some of the AP stuff and see what was going on, because what I was trying to do was I was trying to limit handoff. Like the devices that are downstairs, just only connect to the downstairs AP, right? Same thing for the upstairs. But because the APs aren't, like they're not having consistent problems at the same time, when one goes down, everything switches to the upstairs or downstairs, and then it's just turning into an ugly situation. But we're talking throughout the entire home, including like the smart lights and stuff I have in the yard and all that, 180 something devices.
Yeah, and so the U7 Pro is going to cover every single one of those devices, especially if you're getting two.
Yeah.
If we split those devices in half, you're not even going to meet that. And what we were talking about earlier with the different devices being on the different bands, so your 2.4 for your legacy devices, your 5 gigahertz and your 6 gigahertz, not only are you getting like the separation there, so it frees up a lot of the bandwidth, you just have a more powerful access point in general.
I'll tell you what, one of the biggest indicators that my wireless was starting to have problems, and I'm a huge hockey nerd, like hockey is life right now. I'm in the middle of watching, because most of the games are on Hulu for the out of network games, and seeing the videos start to not live buffer, but drop bitrate
That
so heavily I can't even see the puck anymore. So seeing that happen constantly, now Hulu's not the greatest example, I feel like it happens a lot on Hulu, or going into Netflix and you're watching a show and then randomly seeing, not even the quality tank, but Netflix is notorious for now buffering.
The loading circle.
So that started happening more and more frequently, and that's what led to me really starting to investigate, like, what is happening with the wireless? Because when that would happen, I would go to my desktop, which is wired, start doing fast.com, start doing pings to certain stuff, go to speedtest.net and all that, and just checking all the different places I could test it, full speed, 2 millisecond latency, and I know it's not the internet doing it; it's something in the home doing it. And I really suspect it's the Ruckus APs at this point.
That's what I like about Ubiquiti as well, especially that your issue is having the APs just constantly stop working.
Yeah. We really think it's memory leaks.
What's cool about Ubiquiti is that you can pretty much figure, especially if you have like a full system, you can see on the application and it'll notify you by severity.
Oh, okay.
So how bad something fails. So for example, if your ISP just tanks, it'll give you a notification saying, ISP is down. It's not your router, it's not your access point, your ISP is just down. If it's an issue with the access point, it'll show you with pretty much tri-band signals or how the density is.
Okay, so I think the other half obviously is the switch. I need a managed switch. I don't know how many physical ports I need. I know I've got like the Samsung hub. I've got, there was Ring and stuff in there, but I don't have Ring anymore. I have a proper alarm system. So I don't know if I need a 16 port, but I 8 is probably enough, to be honest. And I like the fact that the one I have in the wall now is like 2 of these. It is massive. Mm-hmm. Now, to be fair, we don't have to stay in the Ubiquiti ecosystem. Like this, it can absolutely go with Netgear or TP-Link or any other brands. Yeah, in Telenet, you said, I just wanted to see what was here.
What was here, yeah.
I'm wondering if there's something else that maybe makes a little more sense outside of Ubiquiti. Now, the cool stuff like you were showing me, he was showing me on his phone, like he can live spy on your network, if you will. It'll tell him if any latency issues or dropout is related to ISP or related to the own network setup or whatever. And that requires some sort of a box interface like we're seeing right here to communicate all that. But to be honest, I mean, I probably wouldn't use those features. Mm-hmm. And if I needed to see any of that and I'm at home within the network, I can just attach to it anyway and see what's happening. But I mean, how important is it now that we stick within Ubiquiti?
Yeah, they all speak the same language, same protocols. If you want the ubiquity stuff, that's when you need to grab something like the cloud key from one of the cloud gateways. That's what enables you to use all the different features like the app, the tracking. If you add on like a security system, you can do things like the AI tracking with their AI cameras.
Okay.
But those require like a way more complex setup. Usually you need something like their heavy duty Dream Machine ports.
Yeah.
How has experience been with the Telenet stuff?
Mainly IntelliNet is usually for people coming in looking for things that aren't ubiquity.
Okay, so is Ubiquity kind of like the Apple of networking then?
What's fun fact, the actual, if I remember to see, one of the people who work at Ubiquity used to work for Apple.
Okay. That makes sense why the packaging and everything feels so Apple-esque. Well, let's do this. So I know this video is getting very, very long. Let me take a look at what other managed switches there are with PPoE or PPoE. Does that AP need PPoE plus? The tri-band?
The tri-band one, I think it just needs PoE plus.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So we'll do a quick kind of peruse now, and we'll come back with what I end up getting from my home network. Okay. So surprise, they're actually $50 off right now, or $30 off right now.
Around there.
Yeah. So they're on sale
doing
right
their
now.
holiday
$150 each instead of $189.
Yeah, that's what they're doing, their holiday sale right now.
Saves Micro Center some money. They're the ones paying for this one. But anyway, I'm going with just the APs first. A couple of reasons. One, I did want to get the Ubiquity Flex 2.5G. The 2.5G doesn't matter to me, but it was because of the fact that it's 8 ports. It's not big. It'd be easy to fit in my wall where it has to go. PSU not included. That's fine, except they don't have any. So that kind of stinks. And you were explaining why that is, but the bottom line is, if you're shopping for that, make sure you know you need a separate power plug. I was about to check on Amazon and see if they had the power plug, but I decided I'm just going to do the APs first because I need to narrow down what is my problem. Is it the AP or is it potentially the switch? And then it got me thinking. They are in a closed off, very poorly ventilated wall cubby, if you will, that was built with the house. And as our devices have grown and we plugged in more things, that's more and more work for the switch and the switch over time, which is what the access points are plugging into. So if I do the APs and the problem persists, well, I've upgraded the APs, which isn't terrible, but then I know the problem was not the APs and it was the switch, which we already talked about this. Like the fun little project to do would be actually getting a couple of those AC plug powered like computer fans, like the 120 millimeter fans, and then cut a hole in there and actually create some airflow. And if that helps, then I'm done. But if I want to use some of the really neat functions, like George was showing me on his phone, you actually see a flow chart of like power flowing through his network, so he can see which devices are absorbing or consuming the most bandwidth on his network. Really cool functions, but then if I want to do that, I've got to use more Ubiquity stuff for that. Don't want to do all that today. I just want to get my network up and working solidly again, and that's where we're going to start with the APs. But anyway, I know this has been a long and interesting video, probably making many of you yell at your screen because when it comes to people that do this for a living, especially at enterprise level, I'm sure there's so many different ways people would probably do this, but consumer grade is a whole different beast. But I want to thank Seth and George for helping me out today. There's a lot of options here for networking. As you can see, the staff is definitely knowledgeable in this area, and if they don't know the answer, they'll find the answer. They'll find someone that can help with the answer. So that's one of the great things about Micro Center is each of the departments have experts in their field that are designed to help you be better consumers and understand and get what you need, not just because you want to spend money, but get you the right product. So that's where we're starting here. And I think maybe what I'll do is maybe a short upgrade, like on YouTube Shorts. That's like, hey, we're up and running and everything's great now. Or, well, it wasn't that. All right, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.